Hey everybody, welcome to my very basic guide. In this episode, we'll be learning how to sharpen our mind so that it becomes really pointy and can be used as a weapon to stab people sneakily. The art of stealthy assassinations, using nothing but raw brain power to manifest into a glowing, pointy blade, is best exemplified in the Soulknife, a roguish archetype found in Tasha's Cauldron of everything. If you ever felt that using your massive intellect to figuratively disfigure opponents in the fields of academia or debate was too passive for your tastes, then perhaps actual murder will be the spice that you need for your life as a Soulknife. Another really fascinating thing about the Soulknife archetype is the level of comfort and reliability the Psionic Powers provide to the rogue on top of the already phenomenal rogue base class features. It really helps these psychic stabbers stand out amongst the other psionic users who usually have to do some complex risk-reward analysis in order to understand when the risk of expending psychic resources are worth it. The subclass features that help define how a Soulknife is able to utilize their unique application of the psychic powers begin at level 3 with the aptly named Psionic Power feature. Like many things in the D&D multiverse, a supernatural power is often represented with the roll of dice, and that is no different for the Soulknife's inner psionic power, with it being manifested as psionic energy dice, which starts out as d6s. The psionic energy dice will essentially be your psychic mana pool, which is the main resource that is expended when you want to utilize your special cerebral powers. You have a number of psionic energy dice equal to 2 times your proficiency bonus. Once you used up all your brain juice, you can regain it all on a long rest, but there's also an additional way to regain a singular energy die by using a bonus action, but you can only take the special bonus action once per short or long rest. And also on top of all of that, your psionic energy dice naturally scales in size, becoming a d8 at level 5, a d10 at level 11, and a d12 at level 17. The first of the 2 psionic powers is known as Psi-Bolstered Knack, an ability that allows the Soulknife to roll 1 psionic energy die and add that number to an ability check that you failed if you were using a skill or tool that you have proficiency in. Even more incredibly is the fact that Psi-Bolstered Knack does not actually waste your psionic energy die if you still fail your ability check, meaning you only use up 1 of your energy die if you change the outcome of an ability check from a failure to success. So there's never a fear of wasting your resources. A rogue failing their ability check on something that they are proficient in may be unheard of for some of you, but it does happen, and having access to Psi-Bolstered Knack to effectively give yourself extra insurance against failure for effectively 0 risk is definitely a powerful ability to be receiving right off the bat of being a Soulknife. The other half of the Psionic Power feature is the ability to talk to other people's brains directly using psychic whispers. Using an action, you get to establish a telepathic link between the minds of creatures that you can see up to a number equal to your proficiency bonus. The duration of your psychic whispers will be determined by rolling 1 psionic energy die and using the result as the number of hours you guys can psionically DM each other. All of the creatures must be within 1 mile of each other in order to send and receive the group chat, which is a pretty good distance considering medieval Wi-Fi is not particularly impressive. Speaking into each other's minds also doesn't cost any action, so you guys can chat away to your heart's content, or if someone is not impressed by your company, then they can just leave at any time as well. It even has a built-in Google Translate, allowing people who don't share a common language to understand each other. And, of course, the first time after a long rest is free of charge, and you only start to expend psionic energy dice after the first trial is over. Starting out at level 3 gives you +2 proficiency bonus, which means that you can only add in 2 other people to your private Discord channel, and the duration is 1d6. But as you level up, not only can you bring in more people into your telepathic server, you also potentially can extend the duration by getting a bigger die to roll. This has many applications from silently being able to communicate with your teams at long distances, to being able to coordinate tactics during a tense situation where you don't want to let the enemy in on your schemes, or even just freaking out random people with how in sync all of you are without any discernible forms of communication to the naked eye. Psychic Whispers is a pretty cool ability and can help the team hatch plans in the secrecy of their brain folds without much cost, and also has innate scaling with it getting stronger and stronger as time passes. So, I think it's pretty good. Moving on to the other extremely important feature that the Soulknives get at level 3, it's their shiny new weapons that are both magical and colorful, and they both stem from the sheer brain power exuding out of your hands, manifesting in psychic blades. These psionically gifted rogues do not need to have crude weapons hidden away in their clothes, as they can produce magic blades with their bare hands. Whenever a Soulknife takes the attack action, they can create a psychic blade in a free hand and make the attack with that blade. This psychic blade is considered a simple melee weapon that has finesse and a thrown property, with a normal range of 60 feet and no long range. As you may imagine, the psychic blade deals psychic damage, specifically 1d6 plus the ability modifier you use for the attack, which is probably dexterity since you're playing a rogue. But after you make your initial attack, you can also choose to summon another psychic blade with your bonus action on your offhand, as long as it's not holding anything. This second psychic blade attack is weaker and only deals 1d4 psychic damage with no additional modifiers. So yeah, if you don't have anything better to do with your bonus action, you can choose to tickle your enemy a little bit more, which may not be a bad thing if your enemy is concentrating on a spell, or if you want to finish off a very weak foe. Overall, I feel that the Psychic Blades feature does what it says on the tin, which is to give the Soulknife cool magical weapons that can be summoned from your bare hands, that is equivalent to using daggers, except it deals psychic damage, which is a much better damage type, and you also can't lose your dagger or have it get eaten by a rust monster. What is also really unique about the psychic blades that you use to stab people is that it actually leaves no physical mark on the victim, and the blade vanishes immediately after you hit or miss the target. This can be pretty great for assassins that want the scene of a murder to look less like foul play and more like accidental death. With no stab wound or damage to the skin, it will be pretty difficult for the authorities to figure out what exactly happened to the body that has no apparent injury. Getting all the way to level 9 as a soul knife means that your wrinkly mind has been sharpened really extensively, to the point that your psychic blades become a part of your soul, giving you 2 new powers in the form of the soul blades feature. These 2 power-ups are essentially buffs to your psychic blades and gives the soul knife its titular title, because up until this point there has never been any mention of the soul, which is why whoever wrote this subclass had to create a good excuse to use this cool sounding name of soul knife with the soul blades feature. The first of the 2 abilities granted by the Soul Blades feature is called Homing Strikes. Whenever you miss an attack roll using your Psychic Blades feature, you can roll a Psionic Energy die and add that number to the failed attack roll. If the result is still a failure, you actually get to keep your Psionic Energy die, and it only gets expended if you are able to transform a missed attack into a hit. This is a pretty great ability considering that at level 9, your energy die size is a d8, which can easily swing a bad roll into something that strikes true, and being able to more consistently get off at least 1 sneak attack per turn against a tougher opponent is absolutely worth it. The second ability from the Soul Blades feature is Psychic Teleportation. You can use a bonus action to create a Psychic Blade and then throw it at an empty space that you can see. The distance will be determined by rolling the Psionic Energy die and then multiplying the result by 10 to find out how far you can throw your Psychic Blade. Once the Psychic Blade is thrown to its destination, you instantly teleport there and the Psychic Blade puffs into psychic smoke. The level of uncertainty and how far away you can teleport is a little bit unnerving if you plan to use Psychic Teleportation, but at worst it's a 10-foot bonus action teleportation that costs 1 Psionic Energy die, like a more unreliable Misty Step, but with a fraction of the cost. Obviously, a rogue has a lot of stuff they can do with their bonus action, even more so with the additional Soul Knife features added on top. However, I do think that being able to get behind enemy lines or the ability to teleport away from being surrounded or escaping from a grapple are all very important scenarios that come up more often than not. Overall, I would say that the Soul Blades features are pretty interesting and actually gives the Soul Knife combat usages for their Psionic Energy dice. If nothing else, it allows for more variety of applications in terms of increasing the rogue's consistency in fighting with homing strikes and added mobility with Psychic Teleportation. Making your way to level 13, your brain juices are pumping on all cylinders, allowing the Soul Knife rogue to blend into any environment with the feature Psychic Veil. You are now able to use your action to mask yourself in a veil of psionic energy, turning yourself and whatever you're carrying invisible for a 1-hour duration. This psychic veil will end immediately after you deal damage, or if you force a saving throw against another creature. The Soul Knife can also choose to dismiss the invisibility at any time with no action required. Once you use the Psychic Veil feature, you are unable to do so again until you long rest, or if you expend a Psionic Energy die. So basically the first 1-hour trial of invisibility is free and every subsequent usage will start costing you. The classic business maneuver. But all things considered, Psychic Veil is a pretty strong ability, considering what you get for what you spend. A full 1 hour of invisibility that doesn't cost you any valuable spell slots or requires concentration, that is already a really good value proposition. Doubly so for rogues who enjoy being sneaky. Not only that, but the invisibility doesn't actually end if you are doing non-creature related activities such as disarming traps, setting traps, or using your telepathic link to communicate info back to your party members. Psychic Veil complements the already really good scouting abilities that are innate to the rogue class and gives an extra level of reliability when trying to set up for an ambush. Being an unseen attacker is a great way to start off a battle, as it not only gives you advantage on the first attack roll, which is pretty good for sneak attack, it will also likely give you the ability to position yourself in an advantageous location that would otherwise not have been accessible if you were not fully invisible. And not to mention that at level 13, the Soul Knife has a proficiency bonus of +5, meaning you have 10 Psionic Energy dice to expend, which is a pretty large pool of resources, especially since each Psychic Veil lasts for 1 hour, which is a long enough duration to not require the Soul Knife to burn through their entire dice pool if you use it properly. Finally, after enduring the relentless expansion of your galaxy brain, you reach the pinnacle of your psionic powers at level 17, giving you new ways to slice through the smoothness of lesser brains in the form of Rend Mind. Whenever you deal sneak attack damage using your psychic blades, you get to use Rend Mind to force a wisdom saving throw on the creature you just damaged. The DC for the saving throw is equal to 8 plus a Soul Knife's proficiency bonus plus the dexterity modifier, meaning that at level 17, assuming you have a 20 in your dexterity score, it should be a DC 19, which is competitive with pure spellcasters, so that's pretty good. And if the target of your Rend Mind fails their wisdom save, then they become stunned for 1 whole minute. They can of course try to break free from being stun locked at the end of their turns by repeating the wisdom saving throw and ending the effect on a success. Once you use Rend Mind once, you can't do so again until after a long rest, or if you decide to expend 3 psionic energy dice to use this feature again. 3 Psionic Energy dice is quite the hefty price tag, but the potential to effectively take out an opponent for at least one round is pretty strong, and the condition gives everyone advantage against a stun target, and they fail all strength and dexterity saving throws automatically, meaning that if Rend Mind works and the big evil guy fails their wisdom saving throw, your entire party can easily go to town and potentially end the fight there. Obviously, there is the other outcome where the target simply passes their wisdom saving throw and you just wasted a quarter of Psionic Energy dice, so it is important to use Rend Mind sparingly and only on boss fights, where a single target is the main threat. But overall, it's a pretty nice capstone feature that the Soulknife gets access to, because the stun condition for a 1 minute duration is in addition to your regular sneak attack damage, is it potentially battle winning, and having the DC of Rend Mind be tied to dexterity makes it a more reliable ability to use overall. And that about does it for this very basic guide on the Soulknife archetype as presented in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. This psionically enhanced rogue is definitely an interesting subclass with a really unique theme. The imaginative appeal of being an agent that can go invisible at will and relay critical information back to their team while spying from within an enemy hideout is really cool. The mechanics that underpin the Soulknife are also very strong, with most of the key abilities being relatively cost competitive with spells that do roughly the same thing, and also having built-in mechanisms that allow the Soulknife to not waste their psychic energy without getting at least a small reward. The Soulknife Roguish Archetype in general has a good mix between combat-oriented features that help boost the rogue's lethality, while also maintaining strong out-of-combat abilities that rely more on the Soulknife's imagination to make it work, but when it does work, it will work really well and can feel pretty cool. And as always, I hope that anyone who watches my stuff enjoys what I create as much as I enjoyed creating in the first place. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, goodbye for now.